To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Senator Nancy Binay promises to focus on the country's tourism industry should she win another term in the Senate. Binay filed her certificate of candidacy today and was accompanied by her brother, former Makati Mayor Junjun Binay.
Nakikita ko na marami pang dapat gawin dun sa industriya ng turismo. So isa ho yun dun sa ipupursue ko ho.
Outgoing Bureau of Corrections Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa also filed his candidacy for 2019 senatorial run. De la Rosa says he will push for the elimination of illegal drug operations in the country and support the move to reinstate the death penalty.
Drug trafficking at saka yung other heinous crimes like death, yung rape, yung murder na talagang karumal-dumal, dapat heinous crime din yan. Dapat death penalty yan. Ako talaga more on drugs.
COMELEC says that as of today, a total of 37 COCs have been filed at their main office for the 2019 midterm elections. Former Vice Mayor and presidential son Paulo Pulong Duterte files his certificate of candidacy for a congressional seat in 2019 midterm polls. He was accompanied by his sister, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio, and brother-in-law attorney Mans Carpio. Pulong says his decision was a result of months of discussion within his family. The former vice mayor believes he still has the support of his constituents even after the controversy that surrounded his name that led to his resignation.
Mao'y na desisyon na namo sa pamilya, sa pila ka bulan namong plano sa politika. Mao'y na desisyon na namo nga sa 1st District.
President Rodrigo Duterte is not in favor of making public the list of political candidates being linked to illegal drugs or the so-called narco politicians. Duterte made the statement during a press briefing upon his arrival from Indonesia on Thursday.
No, I will not. This is not a good policy to to telegraph your intention for what you know about the other fellow, especially in matters of breaking penal laws. We will not in government.
But the Department of the Interior and Local Government is determined to expose the names of the politicians also considered as drug personalities. The DILG is planning to provide the COMELEC with a copy of the narco list and politicians with existing legal cases once the filing period ends on October 17.
We will leave it now to the COMELEC, no? Kasi nasa kanila na ngayon kung anong gusto nilang gawin doon. Basta kami, insofar as the DILG is concerned, we have this list, we forward it to them, and we will leave it to them how they will dispose of it.
But as for the poll body, the matter is already in the agency's law department for assessment and they plan to release the result next week.
Kailangan may due process. Hindi pwedeng dahil nasa listahan ka, DQ ka kaagad. Sa pangalawa, titingnan natin yung listahan kung under the rules, pwede ba natin silang i-DQ.
Cause-oriented group Tindig Pilipinas backs the senatorial run of several opposition members in the 2019 midterm elections. The group's initial list of endorsement includes Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejano, Bangsamoro Leader Samira Gutok, LaSalle College of Law Dean Attorney Jose Manuel Jocno, Senator Bam Aquino, and former Congressman Erin Tañada. According to the group, critical of the Duterte administration's policies, the said candidates went through a rigorous selection process. They also believe these personalities will fight for the rights of Filipinos.
Itong slate ay opposition slate at hindi po LP slate. This is a opposition slate. Kaya nga pilit na sinasabi ho nila ay ito yung kandidato ng mga liberal. Ang gusto namin sabihin, koalisyon ito ng Magdalo, Akbayan, Aksyon Demokratiko, Tindig Pilipinas, Liberal Party, at iba pang mga oposisyon.
Members of Tinding Pilipinas are set to meet next week to discuss the remaining candidates they will support in the coming polls. Senator Cynthia Villar takes a solo lead in the latest senatorial survey of the social weather stations. Villar obtained a 53% voter preference in the poll commissioned by Presidential Advisor on Political Affairs, Francis Tolentino. Sharing the second and third spots are Senator Grace Poe and Pateros Taguig Representatives Pia Cayetano, while Senator Coco Pimentel and former Senator Lito Lapid were tied for fourth and fifth slots. Senators Nancy Binay and Sonny Angara shared the 8th and 9th spots, followed by Bureau of Corrections Chief Ronald Bato de la Rosa. Completing the winning circle are former Senator Sergio Osmeña and Ilocos Norte Governor Amy Marcos. Placing in 13th to 18th spots are Senator Bam Aquino, JV Ejercito, Secretary Francis Tolentino, Special Assistant to the President Bongo, and Presidential Spokesman Harry Roque. The survey, conducted last September 15 to 23, was done by presenting the 1,500 respondents with a list of candidates and were asked to choose 12 names they would probably vote for if the elections were held today. The Makati Regional Trial Court 148 ended today the proceedings on the Department of Justice's request to issue a warrant of arrest and hold departure order against Senator Antonio Trillanes IV. The case is now considered submitted for resolution, according to presiding Judge Andres Bartolome Soriano. The court has admitted as evidence the documents filed by Trillanes, including the copy of the Certificate of Amnesty, sworn statements of those who processed Trillanes' application, and 2 of his aides, the photograph taken during the day of filing, and memorandum circulars issued by the Department of National Defense. However, the court rejected as evidence the printouts of the DND's Facebook page and a throwback picture of Trillanes. With this development, the decision on whether to arrest Trillanes or not is expected to come out anytime soon.
Even in 148, the prosecution failed to present even a single witness or even a single piece of documents to substantiate their claim. In fact, hindi nga kami kailangan magpresenta ng ebidensya. Ang burden of proof nasa DOJ. 7 taong kasong patay, binubuhay nila.
Meanwhile, the Makati RTC Branch 150 has given Trillanes' camp 5 days to submit a reply to the DOJ's objection on the court's previous decision, which allowed Trillanes temporary liberty despite arrest because of the 200,000 peso bail. At least 6 people were killed and a trail of destruction was left after Hurricane Michael, one of the strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. mainland, pummeled Florida's Panhandle coast. Beverly Saison tells us why.
You just pray to God that everybody survived that.
Hurricane Michael left unimaginable destruction as it plowed into coastal areas of Florida. The worst-hit areas of Florida's northwest coast saw houses ripped from their foundations, trees fell, and power lines thrown across streets. Hurricane Michael struck on Wednesday with winds of 250 kilometers per hour. It weakened to a storm as it moved inland towards the northeast, but at least 6 people have died, most of them in Florida.
This hurricane was an absolute monster, and the damage left in its wake is still yet to be fully understood.
Michael plowed into Florida's Panhandle coast near the town of Mexico Beach, one of the strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. mainland. Ranked 4 on the 5-step Saffir-Simpson scale, and with a storm surge of 9 feet or 2.7 meters, it lifted homes from their foundations and heavily damaged others in districts closest to the sea in Mexico Beach. 20 survivors were found in the town overnight, but 285 had refused to obey warnings to evacuate.
It's pretty devastating. Like, everybody we know lost their house. Everybody. And our jobs.
Meanwhile, the Department of Foreign Affairs says Filipinos were not adversely affected by Hurricane Michael. Philippine Ambassador to U.S. Jose Manuel Romualdez reports that 3,300 Filipinos in Panama City, Florida were not hurt and some evacuated from their residences. However, most Filipinos were affected by the power outage in the area. Romualdez advises the estimated 232,000 Filipinos in Florida, Alabama, Georgia, North and South Carolina to follow the necessary precautions and listen to the warnings of local officials. Filipinos who need assistance may call the embassy at 202-368-2767. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
And for the news abroad, here's Stephanie C. live from Hong Kong. Stephanie, good evening.
Good evening, Diego. At least 31 people were killed when floodwaters triggered by a landslide swept debris through a town in eastern Uganda, destroying homes and burying livestock. A government official said the landslide, which followed heavy rains, struck Bukalasi, which is situated on the slopes of Mount Elgin, on Thursday. Relief teams were combing the area to search and rescue survivors. A search operation is underway following flash flooding in parts of Europe. Meanwhile, 4 people were injured after tornadoes and huge hailstones wreaked damage in Australia. Let's find out why from Jovic Burmas.
In Europe, the search continues for missing people following flash flooding in parts of Spain, Italy, and France. 12 died, including a British couple, when torrential rain lashed eastern Majorca in Spain. An 8-year-old local boy is still missing. 3 Germans and a Dutch woman were among those who lost their lives. A flash flood on France's south coast killed 2 people in Saint-Maxime, while a woman was found dead after a storm in Sardinia, Italy. In Australia, tornadoes and a thunderstorm supercell have swept across Queensland in Australia, injuring 4 people and causing widespread damage. The dangerous weather system hit the state's southeast on Thursday, the Bureau of Meteorology said. 1 tornado struck Tansey, snapping trees and ripping roofs from houses. Elsewhere, 4 people were injured when tennis ball-sized hail shattered car windscreens, authorities said. In India, a powerful cyclone has swept into eastern India, leaving at least 8 people dead and destroying hundreds of homes. Cyclone Titli tore into coastal areas of Orissa and Andhra Pradesh states with winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour. About 300,000 people have been evacuated from low-lying districts in Orissa. Authorities say roads are blocked and power supplies have been lost in many areas. Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue.
The world's longest commercial flight has left Singapore for New York, beginning a journey scheduled to cover more than 15,000 kilometers in almost 19 hours. Singapore Airlines is relaunching the service 5 years after it was cut because it had become too expensive. Flight SQ-22 departed on Thursday with 150 passengers and 17 crew. And those are the news from the other parts of the world. Back to you, Diego.
Thank you, Stephanie C. from Hong Kong Live. Visitors at the Museum of Ronald Reagan get to admire the former U.S. president as he makes a comeback at his official library. Leslie Longboen tells us why.
And I think maybe you'll all agree with me when I say just one more line.
Former U.S. President Ronald Reagan is making a comeback as a hologram at his official library in California. A hologram of Reagan, who died in 2004 at age 93, began welcoming visitors at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum on Thursday. Guests were able to watch 3 different scenes that use audio taken from real remarks made during his presidency, which lasted from 1981 to 1989. One scene showed Reagan waving to crowds from a rail car he used in a 1984 campaign stop. The others depicted him inside the Oval Office and at his California ranch.
If you've never been in a room with President Reagan, this will feel like you're standing right there with him. It's just startling how realistic it is.
The computer-generated imagery for the holograms was created starting with a silicone cast of Reagan's head that was photographed from various angles with 300 cameras. His head was then digitally placed on the body of an actor portraying the president with full costumes and backdrops for the 3 scenarios. Reagan's face comes to life via specific movements of the mouth, nose, eyes, cheeks, and hairline, all manipulated by computers.
It is the greatest hologram that we've ever done. It's a museum piece, something that's never been done before, and it's the words of President Reagan.
The library worked with the same special effects technicians who helped bring singers like Michael Jackson, Billie Holiday, and Roy Orbison back to life on stage. Lassie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news, October 12, 2018. I'm Angelo Castro III. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.